Number 8. The Cosmic Appointment. The universe is a pretty decent storyteller, but sometimes its foreshadowing is a little on the nose. It's like watching a movie where a character says, well, at least it can't get any worse, and you just know a piano is about to fall on his head. Mark Twain, the guy who basically invented American sarcasm, found himself in the middle of one of these unsubtle plot points. He was born in 1835 on a day when a very special celestial guest was streaking across the sky, Halley's Comet. It's a giant dirty snowball that only swings by Earth every 75 or 76 years, making it a pretty exclusive event. Being born during its flyby is like having your birth announcement delivered by a cosmic celebrity. For most of his life, this was just a neat little piece of trivia, the kind of thing you'd bring up at a dinner party to sound interesting. But as Twain got older, he started leaning into it, hard. In 1909, he was quoted as saying, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it. It will be the greatest disappointment of my life if I don't go out with Halley's Comet. The Almighty has said, no doubt, now here are these two unaccountable freaks. They came in together. They must go out together." You have to appreciate the audacity. It's like calling your shot in baseball, but for your own death. And the universe, apparently a big fan of dramatic irony, decided to play along. On April 24, 1910, just one day after Halley's Comet made its closest approach to Earth, Mark Twain died of a heart attack. The cosmos basically held the door open for him. It's the kind of poetic, perfectly symmetrical ending that screenwriters spend years trying to craft, but reality just served it up on a silver platter. The universe kept its receipt and made sure the return window was wide open. Talk about customer service. Number 7. The Unsinkable Name. Some people are lucky. Some people are unlucky. And then there are people who the ocean has a personal, multi-generational grudge against. Or more specifically, a grudge against one particular name, Hugh Williams. This isn't one story, it's 3, and they're all connected by bad nautical luck and a bizarrely specific name tag. Our first incident is in 1664. A ship goes down in the Menai Strait off the coast of Wales. It's a total disaster. Of the 81 passengers on board, there is only one survivor. His name? Hugh Williams. Spooky, but hey, someone had to survive. Fast forward 121 years to 1785. Another ship in the same patch of water gets into serious trouble. It sinks. Everyone on board perishes, except for one man. Guess his name. Go on. It's Hugh Williams. At this point, if you're a 18th century Welsh sailor, you're probably getting a little superstitious about the name. But the universe wasn't done. In 1820, a third vessel capsized in the same area. The ship was carrying 30 passengers, all of them drowned in the choppy seas. All, that is, except for one lone survivor who clung to the wreckage. His name, I kid you not, was Hugh Williams. The odds of 3 separate shipwrecks over the span of a century and a half in the same general location, each having a sole survivor with the exact same name, are so astronomically small that your calculator would just laugh at you and turn itself off. It's like the simulation was running a program called shipwreck scenario.exe, and a bug caused the variable for survivor name to get stuck on a default setting. For the people on those ships, it was a tragedy. For the rest of us, it's a chilling reminder that the universe might not be very creative when it comes to naming its characters. If your name is Hugh Williams, maybe just stick to swimming pools. Or you know what, maybe just take baths. Number 6, the presidential rerun. You ever get that feeling of déjà vu, where you're sure you've experienced this exact moment before? Well, imagine that feeling stretched over 100 years of American history. The universe, it seems, sometimes gets lazy and decides to just air a rerun with a slightly different cast. The case in point is the eerie, almost unsettling parallels between Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy. Let's just run down the checklist, shall we? Both were elected to Congress for the first time in the year 46. Lincoln in 1846, Kennedy in 1946. Both were then elected to the presidency in the year 60. Lincoln in 1860, Kennedy in 1960. Both were deeply involved in the issue of civil rights. Both had their wives lose a child while living in the White House. Both were assassinated on a Friday, and both were shot in the head. Getting weird yet? We're just getting started. Lincoln was shot in the Ford's Theater. Kennedy was shot in a Ford Lincoln limousine. Lincoln's assassin, John Wilkes Booth, ran from a theater and was caught in a warehouse. Kennedy's assassin, Lee Harvey Oswald, ran from a warehouse and was caught in a theater. Both assassins were themselves assassinated before they could stand trial. And here's the kicker. Lincoln's successor was his vice president, a Southerner named Andrew Johnson, who was born in 1808. Kennedy's successor was his vice president, a Southerner named Lyndon Johnson, who was born in 1908. It's a list so long and so specific that it stops feeling like a coincidence and starts feeling like a cosmic prank. It's like history's script supervisor was on a coffee break and the intern just copied and pasted the previous century's notes. It's less of a coincidence and more like the universe got a new computer and just dragged the old files over without renaming anything. Number 5. The Prophetic Cannibalism. Imagine you're Edgar Allan Poe. You're feeling a bit gloomy, which for you is just Tuesday. You decide to write the most messed up, horrifying story you can possibly think of to really cement your brand. You dream up a tale about a whaling ship that sinks, leaving 4 survivors adrift in a tiny boat. Starving and desperate, they decide to commit the ultimate taboo. They draw lots to see who will be sacrificed and eaten by the others. The unlucky loser is a young cabin boy. You name him Richard Parker. The story is published in 1838. It's grim, it's shocking, and it's entirely a product of your deliciously dark imagination. Now fast forward 46 years to 1884. A real yacht called the Mignonette sets sail from England. It sinks in the South Atlantic, leaving 4 crew members adrift in a tiny boat. Are you seeing where this is going? After weeks of starvation, their supplies gone, their hope fading, they make a terrible decision. 3 of the older men kill and eat the 4th crew member, the 17-year-old cabin boy, who had fallen ill after drinking seawater. They are rescued a few days later, and the subsequent trial becomes a famous legal case. The name of the real-life, tragically consumed cabin boy? Richard Parker. This isn't just a weird echo. It's a full-blown plagiarism of Poe's nightmare by reality itself. The universe apparently read Poe's novel, The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym of Nantucket, and decided it would make a fantastic live-action adaptation. The details are so specific, so perfectly mirrored, that it feels less like chance and more like a glitch in the source code. It's one thing to predict a shipwreck, it's another thing entirely to predict the name of the guy who ends up on the menu. So next time you write a terrifying story, just be aware that the universe might be taking notes for its next big disaster movie. Number 4. The Identical Strangers. Okay, so nature versus nurture is a huge debate. Are you a product of your genes or your environment? Are your choices your own, or are they just a long, complicated chemical reaction set in motion by your DNA? The universe, in its infinite weirdness, decided to settle this debate by running the most bizarre human experiment imaginable, the case of the Jim twins. In 1940, a set of identical twins was born in Ohio. They were separated at birth, adopted by 2 different working-class families, and grew up completely unaware of each other's existence. Both families, for reasons known only to them, independently decided to name their new son James. So you have Jim Lewis and Jim Springer, living parallel lives just 40 miles apart. When they were finally reunited at age 39, the researchers who studied them expected some similarities. What they found was so much more. Both Jims had married a woman named Linda. Both had gotten divorced. Both had then remarried a woman named Betty. Both had a son, and both had named that son James Allen, with slightly different spellings. Both owned a dog they had named Toy. Both drove the same model of light blue Chevrolet, smoked the same brand of cigarettes, and drank the same brand of beer. They both had a habit of biting their fingernails down to the nub. They both had woodworking workshops in their basements. They even took their families on vacation to the same 3-block stretch of beach in Florida. This goes way beyond genetics. This is the universe being a show-off. It's like their DNA came with a pre-installed life plan software package, and neither of them had the admin password to change the default settings. Number 3. The Premonition Sinking. In 1898, a struggling writer named Morgan Robertson was trying to make some cash. He wrote a novella about a subject he knew well, the sea. He called it Futility, which in retrospect is a fantastically ironic title. The book is about the futility of human arrogance, centered on the maiden voyage of the largest, most luxurious ocean liner ever built. It was considered unsinkable by its creators. On a cold April night in the North Atlantic, traveling at high speed, this magnificent vessel strikes an iceberg and sinks. Because the ship was deemed so safe, it carried only the bare legal minimum of lifeboats, leading to a catastrophic loss of life. The name of this fictional ship, the Titan. If this is all sounding a bit familiar, congratulations, you've seen the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. 14 years after Robertson published his book, the real-world White Star Line launched its own largest, most luxurious ocean liner. It was, of course, widely considered to be practically unsinkable. On a cold April night in 1912, this magnificent vessel, the RMS Titanic, struck an iceberg in the North Atlantic and sank. It did not have enough lifeboats for everyone on board, and more than 1,500 people died. The similarities are uncanny. The name, the cause of the sinking, the location, the time of year, the lifeboat shortage, it's a laundry list of eerie parallels. Robertson wasn't a psychic. He was just a guy who knew a lot about ships and could see how the trends of building bigger and faster vessels while skimping on safety equipment could lead to disaster. But the sheer precision of his fictional account is what makes your skin crawl. It's like the universe read his book, thought it was a great idea, and then just filed off the serial numbers before releasing it as an original historical event. Number 2. The Assassination license plate. Sometimes a coincidence is so perfect, so narratively satisfying, that it feels like it was written by a conspiracy theorist on a 72-hour energy drink bender. World War I was a global meat grinder that reshaped the planet, and it all kicked off because of one event: the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914. It was the spark that lit the world on fire. The details of the assassination are themselves a bizarre series of fortunate and unfortunate events, but the real glitch in the matrix is found on the car the Archduke was riding in. It was a 1911 grief-and-stiffed convertible, and like all cars, it had a license plate. The number on that plate was A3118. At the time, it was just a random jumble of letters and numbers. But look at it through the lens of history. The war that started with that gunshot ended with an armistice. The armistice that ended World War I was signed on November 11, 1918. Now look at the license plate again, A for armistice, and the numbers 11-11-18. Written out in European date format, that's 11-11-18. The end date of the war was stamped right there on the vehicle that started it all. Your brain wants to see a pattern there. Your inner conspiracy theorist is screaming that this can't be random. It wants to believe the universe left a little spoiler tag, a bit of foreshadowing on the back of the car that carried the world into chaos. The rational explanation is that it's just our minds, which are built to find patterns in noise, latching onto a random sequence of numbers. But come on, that's so much less fun than picturing a rogue time traveler leaving a cryptic clue for all of us to find a century later. Number 1. The Dam Bookends. Building the Hoover Dam was one of the greatest engineering feats of the 20th century. It was a monument to human ambition, a concrete behemoth that tamed a wild river, built with sweat, steel, and a whole lot of human sacrifice. Officially, 96 people died during its construction, but the universe, in its infinite and sometimes cruel wisdom, decided to add a perfectly symmetrical and perfectly heartbreaking set of bookends to that story of loss. The construction was a massive, dangerous undertaking. The very first official fatality of the Hoover Dam project occurred on December 20th, 1922. A man named John Gregory Tierney, who was working as a surveyor, was caught in a flash flood in the Colorado River and drowned while scouting for an ideal location for the dam. His death marked the beginning of the human cost of this monumental project. For years, thousands of men labored to erect the dam. They blasted through canyon walls, poured millions of cubic yards of concrete, and worked in scorching, perilous conditions. Finally, the project neared completion. The last man to die during the construction of the Hoover Dam passed away on December 20th, 1935, exactly 13 years to the day after the first man died. His name was Patrick William Tierney. He was John Gregory Tierney's son. It's a chilling, perfect circle. A father and son, topping and tailing the list of the dead. Their deaths separated by the exact amount of time it took to dream of the dam and to build it. It's a statistical improbability that feels less like a glitch in the matrix and more like a ghost story etched into the very concrete of the dam itself. A somber, poetic echo that reminds you that sometimes the universe's patterns aren't quirky or funny. They're profoundly, hauntingly sad. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.